Hello, everybody, and welcome in. It's Devils in Detail. We are back for another semester. My name is Killian McClatchey, and I'm joined by a fresh new face, Scotty Gange.
Thanks, Killian. I'm glad to be here. Today, we've got tons of Sun Devil athletics to cover, including this crazy past weekend of basketball, the ASU Tennis Invitational, wrestling, baseball, football, hockey, water polo, and more. This is Devils in Detail.
We'll have all of that, but first we're going to start off with the Hoopin' Devils. The ASU basketball team is back in the rankings at 25th after pulling off the first conference sweep of the Bobby Hurley era. While the Devils are sitting in 6th in the Pac-12, they're just one game behind second place and have a first-round bye in the Pac-12 tournament in their sights. With the Cousy Award finalist Trey Holder, Shannon Evans, and Cody Justice, the Sun Devils are built to contend night in and night out, especially with the remainder of their schedule coming up. Following the Arizona game on Thursday, the Devils head to Oregon to face Oregon and Oregon State and close out the season in Tempe against Cal and Stanford. To slow it down now a bit, our own Aliana Harino was at the bank for the Sun Devils' victory over UCLA.
After a tough start to conference play, the Sun Devils have hit their stride in their 88-79 win against UCLA on Saturday. With a big game from guards Trey Holder, Shannon Evans, and Cody Justice, the Bruins had a difficult time keeping up with the downpour.
It started off with Cody. He did a great job in the beginning. He was on fire. It's a great win, and I'm happy for Cody. He prevailed. He didn't have his best game, last game, but that shows how high his character is and what he means to this program.
On top of that, freshman Kamani Lawrence put in some efficient minutes after a slow comeback from his injury.
He's working at it. He's not putting his head down because maybe initially he wasn't playing the minutes that he hoped he'd play. And again, his season would be entirely different if he didn't have the injury. But, he gets in, he puts the work in, he works on his game, he works hard in practice. So it's not surprising that he performed well.
With the bank roaring, there was little doubt that the Sun Devils were back. For Devils in Detail, I'm Aliana Harino reporting.
We now bring in men's basketball analyst Richard Girafo. Welcome in, Rich. How you doing?
I'm doing great. How are you?
Pretty good. All right, let's get started. All right, this past weekend, one of the big players was Kamani Lawrence. He was a huge part of the weekend, especially on Saturday against UCLA. He's finally getting some more minutes, and his presence has been felt. Here's what Trey Holder had to say about him after the game.
I think it's great for him, just for his confidence, and you guys didn't get to see him, preseason and overseas. He's going to be a special player. Coming back from injuries is very hard, especially in the middle of the season. But he's level-headed and he works super hard. So I'm proud of him and happy for him. He's going to keep doing well the rest of the year. So
Holder is obviously pretty impressed with him. What do you think about him?
Yeah, Kamani really had a coming-out game against UCLA the other day. It was fun to watch because the year he started off slowly. Obviously, he was hurt for the first, the majority of conference play, really. He missed a significant chunk of time. But when we saw him play against UCLA, it was really nice to see Kamani. He looked healthy for the first time. And as a result of that, we saw a very versatile player that could very well become the X factor for this ASU team going forward. We saw him playing phenomenal defense. He grabbed 8 rebounds. It was a new kind of Kamani, and something that really stuck out to me during the game. There was a 3-play sequence where I could really tell this kid could be special on the defensive end. He started off on a fast break play. He deflected a pass out of bounds, and he saved a bucket for ASU, and UCLA had to set up their half-court offense. The very next play, when UCLA was in their half-court offense, he poked the ball out of Aaron Holiday, and ASU was off to the races, where he then finished up on the offensive glass, and he got one in. Then the next play coming down, Kamani had a rim rejection on Chris Wilkes, and at that moment I knew this is the Kamani Lawrence we've been waiting for. He's healthy, and he's going to become a bigger part of the rotation going forward.
Certainly, and he's going to have to be, looking forward now a little bit, the biggest game in Tempe in a long while. Arizona comes into town. Defense was huge over the weekend, like we were talking about, and it's going to be even more important when playing against a team like the Wildcats. How do the Sun Devils slow down this Arizona team?
So if you try to slow down Arizona as a whole, it's not going to work. So you have to do a few different things. What I say the Sun Devils have to do, and I know this sounds crazy, just bear with me. You have to let DeAndre Ayton get his points. You have to let him score. You have to almost pull sort of a trick on U of A. You need to let them think Ayton's going to control this game, and if he puts up 25 and 15 with 2 blocks, that's okay. The only reason that can be okay, though, is if you limit Alonzo Trier and the guards from hitting on the outside. If Ayton's going in and he's scoring, 2 points, he's getting his mid-range, he's dominating the post like we've seen him do, like he's very capable of doing. But you hold the other guys to limited production, I think that works out well for ASU. Now, if you're going to do this, that strategy requires that the offense has to be clicking for ASU. You have to hit your threes, you have to get the easy ones, and you have to get buckets in transition. So you have to live with Ristic and DeAndre Ayton scoring inside because they're just going to do that. ASU can't stop them. Daquan Lake can put up a fight, but Romello White, he's not great on the defensive end, so he's going to get eaten up for the majority of this game. In the first matchup, we saw them try to double Ayton, and it didn't work. They lost by 6 points. They were able to, get whatever they wanted on the outside. So I think you have to switch this up. I think you have to let Ayton get his, and you need to be very efficient on the other end and limit Trier specifically.
Certainly, and I know you mentioned it's important for the offense. Quick little stat that I found out the other day is Arizona State, every time the 3 guards of Holder, Evans, and Justice, they all score 15, they win. It's only happened 3 times, so it's going to be very important. But so before I let you go, got one more thing. I want you to answer this for me. Arizona State beats Arizona if blank happens.
Arizona State will beat the University of Arizona Wildcats if they turn turnovers into points on the defensive end. Against UCLA, they forced 12 turnovers. That led to 11 points in transition. ASU won by 9. Those 11 points were vital. Against USC, we saw this especially. They forced 18 turnovers in that transition. They scored 32 points off of it. So that's the key. You have to force turnovers. You have to be intense on the defensive end because Ayton's going to get his, and you need all the hustle balls, all the 50-50 plays. That's what ASU needs to do if they're going to win.
All right, fantastic. Thank you, Rich. Well, coming off of that first sleep in the Bobby Hurley era, we'll see where this team goes from here.
Well, as the men on the hardwood are coming off one of their best weekends of 2018, the women are coming off one of their worst. This weekend, the Sun Devils traveled to Los Angeles to face USC and UCLA, and it looked like the transition from Wells Fargo Arena to the Galen Center to UCLA's Pauley Pavilion may have been too much for this young Sun Devil team. USC bashed them 77-62 on Friday night as Ibis, Riley Richardson, and Robbie Ryan combined for just 17 total points. And Sunday afternoon featured more rocky play from the Devils, who lost to UCLA 71-63, pushing them to 17-9 on the season. The inconsistent Sun Devil offense combined for 29 total turnovers this past weekend, as they will hope to turn that around real fast. Because now may be the worst time for ASU to be struggling, as they will play the Arizona Wildcats not once, but twice this weekend, Friday in Tempe and Sunday in Tucson. For continuous coverage of the Arizona State women's basketball team, go online to devilsindetail.com. Transitioning from basketball to tennis, the newly reinstated men's tennis squad got the program's first wins of the season as they hosted Loyola Marymount, Fresno State, and Cal Poly at the ASU Tennis Invitational. Our very own Carson Field was at Whiteman Tennis Center to break down all the action.
The Arizona State men's tennis team won their first match since 2008 this weekend against Loyola Marymount on Friday in the ASU Invitational, a tournament hosted at Whiteman Tennis Center in Tempe. Over the weekend, they also defeated Fresno State and Cal Polytechnic to give them a 3-3 record on the year with a .500 winning percentage after dropping the team's first 3 matches of the year to TCU, Texas A&M, and Duke. Next weekend, they will travel to the Golden State to take on San Diego and Pepperdine in their home sites respectively, and their first match of the weekend will be in San Diego against the Toreros. From Whiteman Tennis Center, I'm Carson Field.
The Arizona State wrestling team has quietly put together a fantastic regular season after they dominated Cal Poly over the weekend to finish 11-3. The 8th-ranked Devils, 3 losses to all teams ranked higher than them. ASU's defeated 5 ranked teams over the course of the season, all within a 10-match win streak that spanned nearly 3 months. Led by #1 wrestler in the nation, Zahid Valencia, the Devils are favorites heading into the Pac-12 championships to repeat and possibly even make some noise at the national championships. Now, moving from the mats to the field, ASU baseball opening night is Friday when they face off against Miami of Ohio, but they played against themselves over the weekend. We now bring in baseball reporter Koki Riley. Welcome in, Koki. Talking about the maroon and gold scrimmage that ASU played over the weekend, it was the public's first chance to really see this season's team. Who stood out to you during the game?
Thanks, Killian. I think we saw quite a few positives from this young Sun Devil team on Saturday. The first thing I noticed was how freshman infielders Drew Swift and Gage Workman both seemed comfortable at the plate with 2 hits apiece. I think that's a great sign given the high expectations that both of these freshman players have going into the season as potential starters. Sophomore outfielder Hunter Bishop had an excellent day for himself as he had a towering solo shot to start off the bottom of the first inning. Bishop's fellow starting outfielder Gage Canning also had a pair of hits. Another returning starter who had an excellent day at the plate was sophomore infielder Carter Aldrete, who had a big 2-run home run off Chas Montoya in the first inning. I'd say look for Aldrete to build off of a solid season last year for heading into 2018. And on the mound, senior Eli Lingos was incredibly impressive by throwing 5 shutout innings. And in relief of him, JUCO transfer Sam Romero was excellent as well. To go along with him, Connor Higgins had a scoreless appearance as well for Team Gold.
Now to preview the Devils' first opponent this season, the Miami of Ohio Redhawks. They come into town. They had a rough year last year away from home as they went 6-21. It is a new season, but what should we expect to see from the Redhawks?
Miami of Ohio is a team that I think the Sun Devils have a very good chance of winning 3, maybe even 4 games in this series. Last season, they went 22-34 overall, and like you mentioned earlier, 6-21 in road games. This is a team that struggled on the mound last season with a team ERA of 4.93. Given that and the fact that they lost their top starting pitcher in Brad Schwartz, that makes them vulnerable in terms of giving up runs to ASU this weekend. On the flip side, the Sun Devils need to be careful in not allowing this Miami team to take over offensively. The Redhawks are returning their top hitter, Ross Haffey, who last season hit 13 home runs to go along with a solid .338 batting average. Look for not only Haffey, but also Cal Elvers and Landon Stevens to potentially do some damage. Finally, look for sophomore 2A player Grant Hartwig to potentially be a factor in this series. The sophomore catcher and right-handed pitcher had a .282 batting average and a .519 ERA his freshman year. He could end up being a big factor this weekend.
Thanks, Koki. Again, the Devils start off this season Friday against Miami of Ohio. We now go to Scotty, who is ready to talk some hockey.
ASU men's hockey was on a bye week this past weekend, but will soon travel to Houghton, Michigan to square off against the Michigan Tech Huskies. In studio with us today is Devils in Detail hockey analyst Josh Schaefer, who's going to help us get our bearings straight on the upcoming matchup. Josh, glad to have you in. And you know, as they say, let's do that hockey.
Yeah, thanks so much for having me, Scotty.
Of course. So Josh, Michigan Tech and ASU played earlier this season. What did you kind of see from that previous series?
Well, this game came down in the Ice Vegas Invitational Championship round. The Sun Devils did edge out the Huskies by a score of 3-2, as we can see here. But the Sun Devils did have a 3-0 lead entering the final frame of this game. So it's going to be interesting to see if Michigan Tech starts the exact same way they started the third period a few weeks ago. They came out hot in the final frame, and it did look a little bit scary for the Sun Devils as the final period ran down. However, Arizona State did win a majority of the faceoffs, which is something that has been crucial to them this season, is succeeding in the faceoff circle has been huge to their success. But once again, we continue to see Arizona State getting outshot by their opponents, and in this case, heavily outshot 38-25. So it really just falls back onto the consistency of ASU sophomore goaltender Joey Decord. And then again, on the special teams for ASU, you know, they came up empty on the power play, as we've seen a bunch of times this season throughout these last couple months, as their power play has continued to struggle. But on the penalty kill, they were 4 for 5, holding Michigan Tech to just 1 power play goal. And when you allow that many chances on the man advantage for your opponent, it's good to get at least 4 kills.
So Josh, we've looked back a little bit here, and now looking forward, how do you think the Sun Devils will match up against Michigan Tech?
Well, I think it all just comes down to the special teams factor. ASU on the power play, as they were unsuccessful in all 3 attempts the last time they played the Huskies. They ranked 59th in the country while on the man advantage, and that's out of 60 teams in Division I. So clearly the Sun Devils power play is not where they want it to be. But alternatively, ASU's penalty kill ranks 22nd in the country. It even at one point got up to 11th in the nation. And they're currently sitting just over 83%, which has been good for the team this year when they're down a man. For Michigan Tech, on the other hand, their penalty kill doesn't even have an 80% success rate, so they are unable to qualify for the top 40 teams in terms of penalty kill in Division I. So if ASU can get chances on the man advantage, they need to figure out a way to score. But bottom line, if Michigan Tech is able to generate as many shots as they did last time against ASU, eventually you're going to find a way to get the puck past Joey Decord.
ASU will play Michigan Tech this Friday and Saturday, with puck drop listed at officially 4:07 p.m. Mountain Standard Time. Josh, great stuff as always. Thank you for your insight. For all of his output on the Arizona State men's hockey team, you can follow him on Twitter at JoshSchaefer25, or you can, of course, go online to devilsindetail.com. As hockey is nearing the end of their season, the ASU softball team began theirs this past weekend, going 5-1 in the annual Kajikawa Classic. Our very own Matt Stahlboff has the full weekend recap.
Thanks, guys. ASU softball has had a great start to the season. After losing their first opening night game in 23 years, they have won 5 straight to finish the Kashikawa Classic with a 5-1 record. Both Fresno State transfers Morgan Howe and Maddie Hatbark shined in their Sun Devil debuts, as Howe knocked in both ASU runs in a 2-1 victory over Indiana. Howe is batting .600 with 3 home runs, including 1 against St. Mary's in an 8-4 win. Hatbark leads the team with 12 RBIs. So far, the pitcher to watch is sophomore Alyssa Loza. She has only played in relief, but in her 2 appearances, she has only allowed 1 run in 4 innings. Expect her to come out of the pen throughout the season. The Sun Devils' next competition will be in the Littlewood Classic against North Dakota, Illinois State, Texas State, and San Diego. Back to you guys.
It is time to officially introduce one of our newest segments here at Devils in Detail, the Devils in Detail Athlete of the Week. The Sun Devil athlete who contributes the most to their team, whether it's on the field, court, mat, or track, or in the pool, will receive the award. Pretty self-explanatory, right? Well, without further ado, the inaugural Sun Devil Athlete of the Week goes to Miss Bente Roja of the number 6 ranked women's water polo team. This weekend, Roja led the team to a third place finish in the UCSD Triton Invitational. In matchups against number 4 UCLA, number 7 UC Irvine, and number 10 UC Davis, the sophomore defender scored 6 combined goals and led the team in points. The Dutch Wonder and the entire ASU women's water polo team will head to Irvine, California next weekend for the UC Irvine Invitational.
Certainly there is not a more deserving start to the Devils in Detail Athlete of the Week. She was pretty impressive in the pool over the weekend. Certainly. But so we're almost done with the show. But I think we have one more guy who wants to get a word in. Look at this man right here.
Of course, Herm Edwards. How could we forget about him? The man, the myth, the legend. Coach Edwards and his recruiting staff were very successful in signing 11 of the nation's top recruits on National Signing Day last Wednesday. According to 24/7 Sports, Herm and the Sun Devils now hold the 6th best recruiting class in the Pac-12. Kevin Sumlin in Arizona ranked at 11. So our next segment is going to help you get a little familiar with some of the future faces in Tempe. Here is our top recruits. Now I'll start Killian.
Right.
My first recruit is Mr. Ashari Crosswell out of Long Beach Poly High School. He's a defensive back and one of the speediest players in the country. He's one of the 4 four-star recruits that signed to play in Tempe, and the speedster should find time on the field pretty early for the Sun Devils.
Certainly Crosswell. I saw a little bit of his tape. He is a stud athlete out there. He flies the ball really, really quickly. I like that first one.
Definitely. And now my next recruit is Mr. Casey Tucker, and you might recognize the name or maybe the face. Casey Tucker is a former Stanford starting offensive tackle, and the now 300-pound graduate transfer is coming to Tempe to play on the line.
Certainly, that's going to be huge, especially with 2 guys missing and graduating from this year's team. He'll be able to step in. He's going to be a huge piece.
Sam Jones, AJ McCollum out, Casey Tucker in. So now transferring right into my final Sun Devil recruit, or now signee, as it's Killian, I think you're going to like this one. Last but certainly not least, I'm highlighting linebacker, of course, Darian Butler out of Narbonne High School in California. The 215-pound future Sun Devil racked up over 150 punishing tackles his senior season. Butler is one of the 6 linebackers that signed to ASU already. And Killian, more is more when it comes to talented linebackers.
That's true. Antonio Pierce coming in, helping out Recruit California. He's a linebacker himself. That was a really good job from him. So,
let's hear yours.
I guess it's my turn now.
All right.
I'm going to have to restart and have to pick a new first one since you took Crosswell. But I think he will be a good piece for the Sun Devils. I'm going to start off with his high school teammate.
Okay.
Jermaine Lole. He's the defensive end, top 25 player for defensive ends. And I think Lole has a really good chance to step into this team immediately and produce just because of the fact he is so versatile and he's really quick off the line.
Lole and Crosswell committed together, and they kind of bashed a couple Pac-12 schools in the making.
That's true. I believe it was a UCLA hat that went flying over their heads.
They threw it all the way away.
They got rid of that one. So now I'm going to keep on going.
Okay.
I like Tucker. My second one it's a big guy.
Okay.
No
Let me hear
pun
it.
intended here.
Hey.
The second new Sun Devil that I want to highlight is the top-rated guy in Herm Edwards' class.
Okay.
The outside linebacker, Merlin Robertson. He's a 4-star, one of those ones that you mentioned. He's an absolute stud athlete. He had offers from schools like Oklahoma and USC, but he chose to come to Tempe in the Valley. He's got great size, flies all over the field, and he's pretty good in coverage too.
Definitely a big win for the Sun Devil recruiting staff right there. Over Oklahoma and USC, it's a nice day.
Certainly, hey, you got to get your wins when you can against teams like that.
Yep.
So I don't think I have enough guys on the O-line. I don't think you can ever have enough guys on the O-line. You got Tucker, but I want to talk about one more guy, and the offensive line is going to need some more after losing McCollum and company. the 6-foot lineman, Jarrett Bell.
Jarrett Bell.
Jarrett Bell. Remember that name? He's a big kid. He's right around 300 pounds, and he's got some room to grow. I think he's going to grow into it. And I do think that he's a guy, he's got very good quickness. He's a great run blocker, and I think that's what this team's going to need going forward. So I think he can really be a special piece for him.
I love it. Killian, that should just wrap about our show today, huh?
I think so, yeah. You know, we got, once you have Herm's face in there, I think it's safe to say that we can finish the show off.
So definitely somebody to watch in ASU athletics. So for Killian McClatchey, I'm Scotty Gange. Thank you all for joining us. Happy Valentine's Day and have a great day.